another big topic in the book was about forgiveness too.
Yes.
And I think this is such a pertinent one, because I think the one that can almost probably bring, well, me, but maybe anyone listening, is just not only forgiving others, but maybe most importantly yourself, because the way you treat yourself is the way you treat others. So if you can't forgive yourself, how can you really forgive anyone else? And like, what haven't we all done so many things in our life where we're like, man, I need to forgive myself for XYZ, ABC, DEF, like all the different things that happen. And it's like, maybe that's something good to talk about, is just forgiveness and the role that it plays and why it's such an important part of moving forward.
So where our power is and where we can bring the most love, light, support into the planet is right here in this moment. Right. So what I was saying about behavior, we've all done shit. We've all done stuff that we wouldn't do again, that we may regret, whatever it is, but we cannot take it back. So in the whole chapter, there's a practice, and I'll simplify it here, but it's where you list your sun qualities, which are the ones we like to share. I'm patient. I'm a good friend. I remember everybody's birthdays, like whatever it is. I'm generous, whatever it is, we list it. Pretty easy to rattle off, right? And then I recommend doing this after we meditate, so we have a chance to just be more rooted and grounded. And then we start to write our lunar qualities, which are the parts of us that we don't necessarily like to share with the world. But as we continue to go back to this practice, it goes deeper and deeper. So, I actually can be judgmental, or I can be mean, or I can be exclusive, or I can be snobby, or whatever it is. And then we list them. And then what happens when you list those, Danica, is you will start to feel the reactions of the ego in terms of sensations in your body. Your body will reflect your reaction. So what does that mean? You may start to feel your heart racing, or you may start to feel, for me, it feels like constriction. So a constriction in my belly or in my heart. So what that means is we still have attached energy to those parts of us that we haven't metabolized or we haven't processed. We sort of pushed away into the shadow, right? Carl Jung talks about bringing things out into the light. So it actually starts to melt the darkness just by nature of starting to see things. So in this practice, we want to hold the sun qualities and the moon qualities up equally and look at them like a yin yang, like both of these are part of me. And we let the sensations rise and fall, which is helping us to metabolize the shame and the guilt. And then we realize then the next practice after that is going beyond that and realizing the surface, all these behaviors, Danica, it's still the ego like acting out of its wounds. And underneath that is the stability of the true self that is beyond behavior. Now, as we get really anchored in, of course, our actions and our words are an extension of our true self. But right now we're having a human experience. So the duality is that we're becoming, as humans, we're still evolving and becoming. And then there's the true self part of us that is already whole and complete. So there's a little bit of this duality, this play. So what it means is we forgive ourselves for being human. We don't trample down on that humanness. We don't beat ourselves up forever because we can't take it back. We learn the lessons. We continue to evolve, and we continue to align more to the true self.
Yeah, I love that practice of being able to look at the sun and look at the moon and look at those qualities and starting to almost basically like familiarize yourself with what it feels like to be in love, to have your heart opening, to be joyful, and then to feel what it feels like in your body, because the body ends up becoming like the barometer for things.
Yes.
And I'm sure that plays a huge role in your life. Like, how does the body feel when a situation comes up? Someone, something, anything. The body is the indicator. You don't always get there's just a booming voice from above going like, this is a bad decision. I mean, you might hear some sort of like, I call them like knowings, like, something just hits you in a couple of words, but a lot of times it's a body that it's the physical sensation first, but then on the other side, when you can feel the contraction, and then you can start to identify, the more you practice that back and forth and knowing what that's like to go out into the real world and have things happen and be like, ooh, wow, I'm feeling that. This must mean something is like, I should be cautious right now. I think is such a valuable practice for somebody. What would they do? So what's the practice then with the moon, the lunar side of your personality, and what you do with those? Is there something you're supposed to actually do other than just witness them to balance them or dissolve them or create some sort of alchemy with them?
Yeah, so this is the whole chapter, which again is in part one, which is about getting past the biggest blocks. So there's not similar, but there is a extended practice in the fear chapter, which is actually the first one, fearlessness, which Yogananda says if we 26 soul qualities that a human needs to develop in order to reach their fullest potential. Fearlessness is number one, because if we're riddled with fear, we don't even want to see, we don't even want to get on the path in the first place. So what we want to do is we want to just start to see and witness in these practices. So we're sort of like pulling things out of the dark corners and we're starting to look, right? So the word enlightenment again means freedom. We can never be free if we are controlled we get hijacked or we act out these patterns. We don't even know what's going on. We just think to ourselves, we project, we blame. We're like, oh, that person's an asshole. Or I just don't like them or whatever it is. It's like always out here versus shining the mirror inside and seeing, oh, my true nature is bliss and unconditional love. And what are the things that have happened that create distortions in that? Like, why do I act out in these ways? Or why does this really bother me? So for me, Danica, oh my gosh, when I start doing this work, I used to think, okay, I like to move things along. The most, one of the things that bothered me the most was when people interrupted me, right? Or I would go into this, explanation. Let's say, oh, feel she'll need a lot of dairy, and then they wouldn't agree with me. So part of me was like, oh, it's just annoying. I would just like toss it off as this person's annoying. But I started to really sit with this. Okay. So it gets deeper. To answer your question, we build and build. We start to see what's there. And then we start to dissolve it in different ways and different practices of bringing in more light. Because these lunar aspects are, darkness. And what is darkness? Darkness is an absence of light. Darkness is not necessarily evil. We don't want to create shame and, weigh ourselves down. It's just that we need to nourish these aspects of us. So for me, I could see, oh, you get really impatient when people interrupt you, when they don't agree with you. What is that? So then I would sit with it. And through this work, through these practices, I could see, oh, the reason it bothers me so much is because it's triggering some very primal fear in me that I'm not good enough to be seen or heard. And underneath that was like, if I'm not good enough to be seen and heard, it's because I'm not lovable, right? Like a deep, deep, deep primal wound, things that had happened in my childhood. And so once I saw that as the root, the behavior was an extension, but the root wound, which again, I take you sequentially into healing this, was this, oh, I don't feel lovable. And once I saw that, Danica, then I started to tune into the ways in which we give ourselves love. No more like dancing around or all the ways in which I was giving my power away, trying to get the love and reinforce myself and validate myself, which is really validating the ego, anything from outside. Instead, it was like, I can show up for myself. I can give myself the love. I can, again, self-soothe, validate. And the healing that came from that was so tremendous, because what happens then, Danica, and this is what cures a lot of relationship issues, is we then become whole as individuals. So when we're with our partner, we're with someone else, a friend, we're not trying to get anything from them, right? We're not trying to get them to agree with us. We're not trying to get them to see our exact perspective. We're just sharing life. And oh my God, Danica, my in-laws came last week, who are very intense, and they've bothered me a lot in the past. And this is just how much the work continues. I was just there, and I got to tell you, honestly, from my heart, they didn't bother me at all. Wow. All the ways in which they'd like say things and like, oh my God, they don't get it at all.
It is so hard to get to that point where you actually can see it in real life, real time, different.
Good, but it adds up. Stop. These practices, Danica, I'm saying if you do like 7 minutes of meditation, then you do a check-in during the day, which could be 90 seconds. One of my practices are 5 minutes. And the end of the day, you think, oh, what's that going to do? But really, you're turning the energy inward, which is always going out. And the realizations may come. It's nonlinear. So you don't realize how much it starts to add up and accrue and build into this more expansive way of looking at things in this much more grounded place where we are, because trying to get stuff from people all the time and, all the ways in which we really are trying to get things, it's part of our primal fear attached to our identity. it's an exhausting way to live life, and it's arduous, and it actually blocks abundance. It blocks love. It blocks a lot of things from coming in, because this desperate energy is really an energy of lack, and it actually repels things from us.
You said that fear is actually you feeling like you're lacking something, right? Isn't that what you say? That fear is you think you're missing something.
Yeah. Fear is being an ego. Because if I'm an ego, I'm scared that, oh my God, I'm getting older. My body's going to break down. All this stuff's going to happen to me. Someone's going to outdo my stuff, my project at work. I'm not going to get the promotion. It's because we're still here all the time. It doesn't mean we need to, we're going to take steps. We're going to work on our skills. We're going to be in the world. But when we tune into the true self, this eternal part of us, we don't have the same fears that are taking over our life every day. One of my other favorite chapters, Danica, is the warrior chapter, right? And this Sanskrit word is kastriya, this warrior part of us. In Yogananda's commentary, he says something: throw yourself into the din of battle and do not worry about results. So this means when we're living from our heart, when we are taking right action, dharma, so we've concentrated our energy, and then we see where we want to put it. We go for it. We create. We're not riddled with fear of, what if this doesn't work out? What if, they don't like me? And that was also a big difference in writing this book, Danica. I think, as an author, and you know this too, the publisher wants to have input, like, oh, this is what's trending. This is what's going on out here, products, whatever it is. And so it's almost this reverse engineering of, here's what's out here, and here's how we reflect that. With this, it was none of that outside. It was like, boom, this is inside of me. And I feel so passionate about this. And so it's unfolding from the inside out. Like, I think this is how our best stuff is created. Whoever we happen to be, is we're birthing something. Truly, it's so connected. It's so deep within us. And then it comes out of our unique talent and our unique energy. And I think when we overvalue, again, the ego, just trying to figure out from here and then do it the other way, that's when, things don't always work out so well.
What are some practices that you've noticed over time that help get you into that state of more of a clear channel, more present, more connected to the true self and the message that you have? And then what have you noticed over time are some of the things that you do that take you out of that, or make it feel a lot maybe more blurry and a little less clear and a little less obvious what you should be doing next or saying next, or even just doing sometimes is even the way it's like, I don't know, what should I do now?
So I keep saying this word, Danica, practices, because I think that's the most important thing here, right? It's like, otherwise we're just a leaf blowing in the wind. Like, once in a while I do a yoga retreat and I feel good, or I see a happy Instagram post and I'm like, yeah. But it's practices that really are what is how we are working with energy. So for instance, in the morning routine, I teach hot water with lemon, great, good for your digestion, get the vitamin C in, get the hot water in, which helps you feel stabilized in your physical body, take your SBO probiotics, do something for your gut health. And then always, it's sitting to meditate, even if it's 7 minutes in the practical enlightenment meditations that I teach, because from the beginning of the day, we want to be creating a pattern, a flow of our energy where we're not just tuned out here, but we have this inner connection that we're starting the day with. And so it may feel restless at first. It was excruciatingly difficult for me to sit in meditation when I started, over 12 years ago. But now that I have been meditating for a while, it continues to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So anyone that's like, well, what's the best thing to do to get started? I say, do the meditation every morning. If you don't have 7 minutes, I mean, I'm sorry, but you got to adjust your life, right?